April 8, 2026. Morning light cuts through the glass facade of Western Mall in Kisumu. Senator Godfrey Osotsi sits at a Java House table, reviewing notes for an upcoming county forum. Without warning, a group of unmasked men moves in, not with chaotic yelling, but with cold coordination. Within minutes, the senator is down. Panic erupts. By noon, he's on a medical flight to Nairobi. By evening, Kenya is asking the same question it's asked for decades. Who sent them and who's paying them? This isn't just an attack on a politician. It's the latest invoice in a shadow industry that's been operating in Kenya's political backrooms for generations. Today, we're tracing the rise of goon violence in Kenya, from colonial-era enforcers to coordinated daylight ambushes, and asking how a democracy learned to treat hired thugs as part of its political playbook. To understand today's goons, we have to rewind past the headlines. The blueprint wasn't drawn in Nairobi's informal settlements. It was stamped in colonial archives. British authorities didn't just rule Kenya, they outsourced violence. Punitive expeditions rewarded loyalists, punished dissenters, and taught a brutal, enduring lesson: political control can be farmed out. After independence in 1963, that lesson didn't disappear. It adapted. Land redistribution became a political weapon. The one-party state under Kenyatta, then Moi, normalized silencing opposition through intimidation and detention. But the real inflection point arrived in the early 1990s, as Kenya prepared to return to multi-party democracy. Power doesn't surrender quietly, and in the Rift Valley, coast and western regions, state-backed militias emerged overnight. But this wasn't random ethnic friction, this was strategy. The violence was widely seen as a deliberate tactic to fulfill the then ruling party KANU's own prediction that multipartyism would lead to tribal chaos. By displacing outsider ethnic groups, Kikuyu, Luo and Luya, the regime aimed to redraw the electoral map in its favor, remove the voters who might oppose you, and you don't just win the argument, you win the ballot. Two groups became infamous instruments of this strategy. First, the Kalenjin warriors. These weren't spontaneous mobs. They were organized bands of armed youths, often transported in government vehicles, who moved with military-like precision to attack farms and villages across the Rift Valley. Their targets weren't random. They were communities perceived as opposition strongholds. Second, the Digo raiders. Active primarily along the coast, these groups were implicated in the brutal 1997 Likoni clashes. Their mission? Target up-country people, Kikuyu, Luo, Luya migrants, to discourage them from registering, campaigning, or voting for the opposition. The message was clear: if you don't belong here politically, you don't belong here physically. The result? Over 300,000 displaced, more than 1,000 killed, and a precedent cemented. In Kenyan politics, violence isn't a last resort, it's a first-line campaign tool. Fast forward to the 2000s. Enter the Mungiki. What began as a social-religious movement quickly morphed into one of Kenya's most feared political enforcer networks. By the 2002 and 2007 elections, they weren't nursed street toughs, they were campaign assets, paid to protect, paid to intimidate, paid to deliver votes through fear. Then came 2007. The disputed presidential election ignited the worst political violence in Kenya's modern history. Over 1,300 dead, 650,000 displaced. Ethnic militias, campaign goons, and fractured security forces blurred into a single storm. The International Criminal Court stepped in. 6 Kenyans, including future presidents and senior politicians, faced charges, but the cases collapsed. Witnesses disappeared, evidence vanished, and the message was clear. In Kenyan politics, violence pays. Impunity protects. The 2010 Constitution brought devolution, the creation of 47 semi-autonomous county governments, 47 counties, 47 new power centers, and 47 new battlegrounds for political enforcers. But the old sprawling ethnic militias gave way to something leaner, more flexible, and fiercely transactional. Today, you'll hear names like Dubai, Sangwenya, and China Group. These don't operate as traditional gangs or standing militias. They function through what security analysts call a cell system. So what does that actually mean? Imagine a network where power doesn't flow from a single visible leader. Instead, it's broken into small, self-contained units called cells. Each cell operates independently. Its members know their immediate handler, they know their specific task, but they don't know who funds them. They don't know who coordinates other cells. They don't even know how many other cells exist. It's a structure built for secrecy and survival. If one cell is compromised, if a member is arrested, flips, or is killed, the damage stops there. The rest of the network keeps moving. No names to give, no maps to draw, no paper trail to follow. and geography dictates where these cells activate. Dubai operates out of Nairobi's informal settlements, Mathare, Kibera, Mukuru. Sangwenya is rooted in Kisumu and Migori counties across Nyanza. China Group has been documented moving through Western Kenya, often activated during heated county-level contests. Regardless of location, they all follow the same operational blueprint. Each cell is deliberately small, typically just a handful of members, almost exclusively young men between 15 and 35 years. They are recruited from their own neighborhoods, operate in tight coordination, and are deployed for highly specific, localized tasks. One cell might be paid to disrupt a rival's rally, another to block a highway during a campaign tour, another to carry out a targeted strike in a commercial center. They don't know the broader political strategy. They just know their handler, their assignment, and their payout. This isn't accidental chaos. It's engineered deniability. They aren't bound by tribe or ideology anymore. They are bound by paychecks and built to vanish when the heat rises. Today, political thuggery is a supply chain. A campaign manager needs a rally disrupted. They contact a local fixer. The fixer recruits unemployed youth, promising 2,000 to 10,000 shillings per job. Payment is cash, buried in security or logistics budgets. The goons show up, they intimidate, they clash with police, sometimes they vanish, sometimes they are arrested and quietly released days later. And the police? Too often, they are collaborators, arriving late, looking the other way, or actively coordinating with the groups they are sworn to stop. That collaboration has moved into spaces no Kenyan thought would become battlegrounds, churches and funerals. Since late 2024, goons have disrupted worship services, scattered mourners, destroyed property, operating under the watch or sometimes the escort of officers. Tear gas inside church compounds, sacred ground treated like a campaign rally. It's a new low. In June 2025, state-hired thugs with whips descended on Nairobi protesters. Even international observers were stunned. The Anglican Church warned, Kenya is sliding towards a Haiti-style gangland reality. Why does it work? Because it's cheap, deniable, and until now, the cost of doing business has been zero. Which brings us back to April 8, 2026, the Kisumu ambush. This wasn't a spontaneous clash. It was daylight. It was targeted. It was inside a commercial mall, not a remote rally ground. Senator Osotsi, a prominent voice from Vihiga, was in Nyanza for political engagement. What followed was a chilling display of coordination. Witnesses described men moving with purpose. No loud demands, just violence, executed fast. Reactions were swift. Leaders condemned it as cowardly, politically motivated. But beneath the outrage lies a darker truth. When a sitting senator can be ambushed in public, the line between political competition and criminal enterprise has been erased. Who funded it? Who planned it? Will the investigation follow the money? History suggests we know the answer, but the question remains, how much longer can Kenya afford to look away? The goon economy thrives on desperation, impunity, and election cycles. Politicians budget for it. The justice system rarely traces violence back to those who sign the checks. If this continues, Kenya won't just risk another electoral crisis, it will normalize a system where democracy is outsourced to the highest bidder.